there are signs of spiritual death. You know, there are signs of physical death, like there's no pulse. I'm sure there's a lot of us here, nurses, I don't have to explain that. No breathing, no response, body grows cold. Even so, there are signs of spiritual death, and let me share you some of it. First is the spiritually dead are driven by evil influences. Look at verse 2. Verse 2 says, where in time past you walk according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, and the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience. The spiritually dead are driven by three evil influences mentioned in our text. First, in verse 3, Paul says, in which you once walked according to the course of this world. The word translated course here literally is the word for age. That means that you will be pressured to conform to the shifting standards of this world. You think like the world, you think like this world, you will behave like the world, you will dress like the world. Humanism, materialism, and hedonism will be the primary forces that direct your life as you yield to the world. Secondly, in the verse 2 says, you live according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit who now works in the sons of disobedience. This is clearly a reference to Satan, who elsewhere he calls the God of this age, like in 2 Corinthians 4:4, it says, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. You know, 1 John 5:9 also says, we know that we are children of God and that the whole world is under the control of the evil one. Remember, Paul also reminded us about the armor of God in Ephesians, also Ephesians 6:11 and 17. But in Ephesians 12, it says, he said, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. If you're not living for God, you are living under the control of Satan. And there's no middle ground. He will lead you into a life of disobedience to God. If you're not a Christian yet, you are under the control of this sinful nature. Verse 3 here, it says, among whom also we all once conducted ourselves in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind. So an unbeliever is really dead to God, but very much alive in the passions and lust of the sin nature. As long as you're dead in sin, you will be controlled by sinful desire. And they will drive you to the things you will often regret. So based on verses 2 and 3, can you say that you're spiritually alive or still spiritually dead? Well, if you're not sure about that, consider another sign of spiritual death. Second is the spiritual dead are unresponsive to God. Physical death can be defined as the inability to respond to stimulus. Many of us have experienced, of being with someone soon after their death. You can call their name, they will not respond. You can kiss their lifeless cheek, but they cannot return the gesture of love. They don't respond at all. In spite of all your efforts to get that person to respond, nothing. Because they're dead. They're physically dead. They're incapable of responding. See, spiritual death is similar. Without relationship with Christ, we are dead to spiritual things. For example, have you ever invited someone to church only to discover that they have no interest in hearing God's word? They don't even want to sing. Or sad to say, some people here also, they choose to be late because they just don't want to participate in the worship. Worship starts at when? The very beginning. So you don't be choosy in choosing which one you want to attend. Because that's worship, corporate worship. 1 Corinthians 2:14 says, people who do not have God's Spirit do not accept the things that come from His Spirit. They think these things are foolish. They cannot understand them because they can only be understood with the Spirit's help. Kind of like what Annette was sharing earlier. Her co-worker. No matter how you try to be good, you're doing God's will, trying to be good, but they can't understand what you're doing because they don't have the Spirit of God. The Apostle Paul says that natural man does not welcome or discern the things of God. He will have very little interest in the things of God. See, another example describes the Pharisees. They're not Pharisees. And the Sadducees, they're Sadducees.